Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version. Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of High Strangeness. Tonight, I have my new buddy on, Eli Watson, and I'm just going to give you a little information about Eli. Eli hails from the wonderful Temecula, California, great wine country. Eli is a dynamic figure in entertainment known for his roles as an editor, producer, director on various documentaries and short films. He also hosts the podcast Cryptid Campfire, where he shares his passion for mysterious and particularly his belief in Bigfoot. Eli, how are you doing this evening, buddy?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Man, I'll tell you what, I'm doing pretty good for a Monday, you know? I'm feeling it. I'm starting to get those fall vibes. We were just talking about how hot it was in California, and I'm sympathetic to your situation.
Yeah. The fall vibes here in California are 100 degrees.
Yes. Right. It's just no fair. It's no fair. Like, it really should be, like, by law, it just should be 75 and no hotter after August is over.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And you're have you been in Temecula your whole life?
Pretty much, yeah. So I lived in LA for about a period of 4 years when I was going to film school.
Great.
And
Oh,
then I moved-
whereabouts in LA were you living?
Do you know like East Hollywood, Little Armenia area? Yeah.
Dude, I lived on Normandy and Hollywood Boulevard for like 6
wow.
years.
Yeah,
in
that was
Los
close.
Feliz. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Where
I
were
was
you at?
Santa Monica, Vermont.
Oh, dude, we could have borrowed like cups of sugar from each other, you know, like
I
we were
know.
that close.
Yeah,
That's funny.
wild.
That's a great hood, though, man. Like I love it around there. Where were we going to film school?
Cal State Long Beach. So I was
Hell
living
yeah.
with my grandparents, and then I would drive to Long Beach every day and back. So
That's a lot of traffic.
it's a long drive, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like by miles, it's probably like 9 miles. It should be like a 15-minute drive, but it can be like 2 hours.
Yeah, and I think it's ingrained in my memory. It's exactly 30 miles, I think. So
Yeah, because Long Beach isn't like that far away, but man, it can seem like it's like a road trip. You might need to bring a cooler and stuff.
oh yeah, dude, 2 hour drive. You know, it's like, bro,
It's
what
a
am I
lot.
doing?
That was my life for 20 years. Sometimes I think back like, well, what did I do in all those years in LA? I was just spent time in my car.
Yeah, yeah.
That was it. I remember I used to see people like in a rush hour, like drinking, having like a beer, and like, you know, just like because they were going like 5 miles per hour. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And after a while, I was like, no, that makes sense. You know, if you're going 5 miles per hour, I think you should be able to drink.
Yeah.
That's rad, but like Temecula is absolutely gorgeous, man. I've been there just like, you know, vacationing and doing the Airbnb thing with buddies and my wife, and it is so beautiful.
Oh, I love it out here. You know, it's when I came back home after college, you know, I moved back home. I
Uh-huh.
just graduated, COVID hit, and that's kind of when I realized I was not a city person at all.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, nope, it's wide open skies, mountains, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff for me.
I hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Temecula is going to give you that. It is just such beautiful landscape. It's kind of like the desert mountain vibe. Ooh, yes. And that
Yeah.
seemed very charged for weird stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, there's more weird stuff out here than I thought.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Isn't it? It's kind of the thing too. I think a lot of people, like, if you're into this stuff, you're like, oh, well, where I'm from, there wasn't that much going on, and then later in life, you realize, like, wait, no, I was totally wrong about that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. So,
That's interesting. That's very well. I want to talk about this incredible documentary, which was what prompted me to ask you to be on the show. I want to talk about later, but you made a documentary called Mountain of God about this UFO cult,
mhm.
and I thought it was fantastic, and it was great, and it was kind of like discovering something that happened in your neck of the woods.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That was that case means a lot to me on a personal level because it takes place right in Temecula.
Uh-huh.
And so the whole thing kind of started with Vince Izunza up in Washington who he kind of runs. Oh, what's it called? It's a flying saucer the Chehalis Flying Saucer Festival.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
yeah, and he, it's all about commemorating Kevin Arnold. Kevin Arnold?
Oh my God,
Kenneth Arnold.
Kenneth Arnold, yes.
I almost called him Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, but Kevin's such a funnier name that sounds like a whole different. It could be like a hockey player. I'm Kevin Arnold.
Right.
Yeah.
No, Kevin Arnold's the actor, isn't he?
So I think here's what we're thinking. I think Fred Savage played a character named Kevin Arnold on the Wonder Years. Boom,
Yes,
we got it.
yes.
We nailed it.
We did it. Wonder Years.
We did it. Which would be such a different story of the first major UFO sighting if it was Fred Savage.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Kenneth Arnold, he's the first major, UFO story, as you said. That's where the term flying saucers comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I think he saw 12-ish crafts flying, from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I'm so sorry. I should have studied up on
No.
that.
It's it's around the oh my gosh, it's not like Puget Sound. It's
No, it was like Rainier to Mount
It's
Adams.
about Rainier. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so this guy was a cargo pilot. He was flying to Yakima, Washington, and he sees these craft, and they're kind of bouncing up and down throughout the sky, skipping like a saucer would if you would throw it across the water. And the media took that and were like, flying saucer.
Yeah. Yeah.
He never said that, but...
No, he saw delta-shaped craft.
Right.
Which is the irony, and then everyone a week later sees flying saucers. It's,
right.
Oh, the tricky phenomenon of UFOs.
So, yeah. So when Kenneth Arnold went public with it, which I believe was 1948, or 1947, actually, because that was the summer of flying saucers, because it predated Roswell, if I'm correct.
It did. I think he came out with it pretty fast, like after it happened, right? I think he came out with it. It was kind of a media circus, and then he got into investigating flying saucers even.
A little bit. I don't know too much about that. I just know...
That's fascinating.
He got a bunch of fan mail, and so one of the letters he got was from this guy, Everett H. Lee, Olympian Society, in Temecula, California, claiming to know the truth about the flying saucers. And Kenneth Arnold never responded to that. It was one of thousands of messages he got. But it kind of resurfaced. His granddaughter still had some of them. And so Vince posted on Instagram, "Do I know anyone in or around Temecula?" And I was like, "I'm in Temecula.
Yeah.
What's the deal?" And he filled me in on the whole thing, and it was just like, holy cow, there's something going on here. There's this cult in Temecula. What is this Olympian Society?
Yeah.
And so
what
then
just fell in my lap here?
Yeah, pretty much, right? I was like, I never have heard of this. I grew up in Temecula my whole life. I was like, never heard of this.
Yeah.
And so whatever it was is no longer around. And we kind of discovered, the Temecula Valley Historical Society newsletter, TVHS newsletter, and in it there was a story some guy wrote about, I think it was a bus driver, it was a tow truck driver maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He was driving along one of the roads back in Temecula, and gosh, I can't remember the story in its entirety, but someone had passed away, and it was one of the co-founders of the cult.
Uh-huh.
And with Everett Lee, who I believe it's Everett Lee, because he uses code names because he couldn't remember the actual names.
Right.
So from piecing together the case over time, I believe it was Everett Lee who escorted this passed away body that was found on the side of the road. He was dead in his car, maybe a heart attack, don't really know. Took him up into the mountains to the Mountain of God. Yes. And they took his body and they said, he's sleeping, but he'll be back. And it was like, I'm pretty sure he's more than just asleep.
I'm sure homeboy's not breathing here.
Yeah, right? And so where he was buried, we don't really know. But yeah, that's kind of the mystery of it. That was all that was kind of known about it. Well, I reached out to the Temecula Valley Historical Society, and that was all they knew about the Olympian Society. And so I brought them the letter, and they were like, "Wait, we've never heard of this. We don't know, what does this mean?" And so, after a long period of searching and going through geographic maps and all this stuff, Vince somehow found some sort of document, which we have now lost, that was talking about this singular oak tree that was planted as kind of a marker or a special occasion for the Olympian Society. And I don't know how he did it, just by looking at Google Maps, but he found a single oak tree all by itself.
Right.
And so I went out there and I start going up the hill, and sure enough, I see a windmill, and I keep going, and I see another
Not
building.
to cut you off, I just want to say this moment in the documentary is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my god, no way! Like I was like really like this it's a thrilling documentary in a lot of ways, because like we're watching you discover this. Like I'm so glad you documented it on camera, dude. So I'm like, it was really fun to be like in your back pocket for these moments.
Yeah, it was wild, because that was not the first time I had been out there looking for the cabin. And or the cabins, as it turned out to be. But just something was special about that time. And I didn't even come prepared. I think that's in the documentary. I'm wearing Crocs or sandals.
Yeah, no water, Crocs. It's like hot as hell out there.
I've been out there so many times and found nothing. But
Yeah.
I also was like, I should probably film this in case I do find something. And so that's why I wasn't prepared. There's some comments under there. They're like, oh, why would you do that without the proper gear? I'm like, dude, I wasn't expecting to find anything.
Totally. And like you're like, here, I'll just make another trip out there, see if I drive by anything. Because
Right.
literally, like, just from the documentary, like you were just like cruising out there again. Like maybe I'll pop out of my car and check around a bend. You were not expecting to like
Right, exactly.
be on foot for so long, which it's kind of funny because like, as you're going, you're like, damn, I really didn't prepare for this, man. I'm in Crocs and I have no water. Like, whoops.
Yeah. But yeah, I kept seeing it up the hill, and I was like, I'm gonna go check it out, and sure enough, there was these I think there's 2 cabins and then some kind of pantry or chicken coop. I can't really tell what it is, but yeah, I was like, this has got to be it. Like, this is it. And then I was like exploring around too on a later trip and found all these pads, like these flattened out dirt pads where it looked like there might have been more cabins in the past.
Right, like some foundational stuff. Interesting.
Right. So there's also some concrete pads up there as well that look like they were made later, because the property did change hands and whatnot over time. So I'm assuming that's someone else's deal.
Right.
But yeah, it's really fascinating. I was like, wow, this is so crazy. But I think the biggest breakthrough, the biggest peek into the mind, because, then I start going through all these old newspapers and whatnot, looking for this guy, Everett H. Lee, Olympian Society, Temecula, digging up what I could find, and there was little pieces here and there. I think the most interesting thing was like Everett H. Lee was giving all these sort of public lectures about the laws of nature and the universe and whatnot. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, that's a little out there, And then I think the biggest thing was finding out that he had written a book at one point, 12 books at one point in time, and only one of them was available in, I think it was, I can't remember the school. For the life of me, I could not.
Right.
But some college university in Orange County had it.
Wow.
And they had it in their special collections, and I submitted a request, and then like a week or two later, they emailed me back, and they're like, oh, we don't have this book anymore. And I was like,
drag.
That's what a drag. And then like a week or two after that, they were like, just kidding, we do have it.
Whoops.
Whoops. So I went out there and I looked at it, and they did make a PDF copy for me.
Oh,
So
that's
that was
so nice.
So I still have it. I have a PDF copy of it, and I've read through it. It's kind of dense. It's really about Everett Lee's kind of take on the laws of nature, how the flying saucers kind of fit into that. And then I think the biggest thing that was just like, what do you mean, was when he talked about meeting the space people on top of Mount Olympus. And I was like, that's so what?
Yeah.
And he just kind of leaves it at that. Like, yeah, I met with the space people. And it's like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
It's moving on to the next chapter here. Whoa, buddy. Go back.
Go back a little bit,
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of a shame that, like, the other books don't really exist anymore, because I think they were published in the 1950s, and they were small publication, independently published, he didn't get any book deals on it, but and the one that I held in my hands is like this kind of paper. It's like very thin. It wouldn't really stand up to the test of time. And so, then I start looking into descendants. Does he have any children, any grandchildren? No, he never had any children.
Right.
Any of the other members of the society, did they have children? No, they didn't. Which is like really...
That is weird, especially for that era. It's like,
Yeah, especially because we ended up piecing it all together here. I should have rewatched my own documentary before this, but...
Well, you don't have to go through. I mean, like, I don't want you. I mean, obviously, I can't recommend to the listeners enough. Like, this is so worth watching. Like, especially I was telling you before this. Like, I love cold case research into high strangeness. I feel like people overlook the importance of it. That's why I was so thrilled to find this documentary, because I was like, oh, this is actually work we can do. Like, we can sit outside and wait for a flying saucer all day, but, like, this is proactive work, because I think the history of this stuff is really important,
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, please go on. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
I mean, I ended up just really digging into Everett Lee and piecing together a picture of his life and whatnot, and, found out he was born in Canada. He helped define, what was it, the 49th parallel, the border between the U.S. and Canada. Spent some time up in Alaska, which I thought was cool. Visited his relatives in England, then moved to Long Beach, then moved to Temecula because of the Homestead Act, so you could get all this free property if you promised to build a homestead on it, which I think he ended up... I can't remember the exact details. He didn't fulfill that mandate, so he ended up passing it on to his co-founder, John B. Smith. And so that's how they were able to keep the compound going for a little while. Eventually, they all ended up moving, selling it to a local politician, I believe it was, and there was all these parties going on up there, that potential rumors of a nudist colony up there,
Right.
So... whether that came from the politician or the actual Olympian Society, I don't know if we'll ever find that out. But
Yeah, I could see either case working.
Right? Maybe it was both. Who knows?
It might have been both. It's likely. Well, like, were you able to kind of decipher? I mean, like, obviously it's hard with these kind of cults and a lot of these, it's like, because Everett Lee, like, I mean, he sounds like a lot of other contactees from the 1950s, right? They have this experience with Space Brothers. Then they start lecturing and start, like, weaving in their almost like kind of like new agey religious type stuff. Were you able to kind of decipher or detect any kind of like cosmology or like, like, what was Everett Lee, like, espousing? Like, what was the beliefs of the cult? Like, were you able to, and that's probably hard to completely determine, but were you able to kind of get snippets of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that was mainly what that book was about. And it's very typical of the contactee movement. It's Christianity with kind of an Eastern mysticism paint to it, it's all about, like, karma and, everything grows the same way all throughout the universe. Humans are the most advanced form of intelligent life, therefore the aliens look just like us, things like that.
Right. Yeah.
And it's interesting because that Mount Olympus is very, very close to Palomar, which we can see here in Temecula as well. And I did a 2-part documentary on George Adamski, who is the contactee based out of Palomar.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of, in a way, looking into Everett Lee was looking at a microcosm of George Adamski, which, I wanted to do so much more because Southern California is full of UFO contactees, the 1950s era, and all of that gets overlooked.
Yes.
Because as soon as Betty and Barney Hill abduction happened, I think in 1961, everything else got swept under the rug.
You're right. It was one of the big shifts in ufology.
Exactly. And so when you look at that contactee era from the 40s into the 50s, I think that there's a really interesting cultural phenomenon going on there that so many people were latching onto this, and again, it was like they're questioning Christianity, they're getting into Eastern mysticism, and they're tying in UFOs into it somehow,
Totally right.
Yeah.
No, but it's so true. You're so right, because the 50s really and not completely, but for the most part, in terms of popular culture UFOs, it really was this kind of trope of the space brother, they're peace and love, get rid of the nukes. There was a lot of environmental messages. And then the 60s kind of signals that turn where it started to get maybe a little more sinister. People were being taken aboard the things against their will. But so Everett Lee is definitely part of that. It sounds like in this UFO cult was definitely a spill-off or potentially heavily influenced by Adamski.
Right, and what I can't determine, because in many ways Everett Lee kind of predates the contactee movement. From the documents we were able to find, he moved out to Temecula in the late 1930s.
Oh, wow.
So that was before all the UFO craze, and so it's
Totally.
it makes me wonder, was it always a UFO cult, or did it become a UFO cult?
Right.
Did
they add UFOs into the whole picture? Yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful to know? Were UFOs an addition? It's well, how do I make this cult a little sexier? Well, add a flying saucer or two.
Right.
Right.
So, and that would also predate the atom bomb in World War II, So it's it's really intriguing, the whole history of it, and there's so many little questions like that. I don't know if we'll ever get the answer to that,
You know what? I have a feeling you're going to. I have a feeling. I'm being totally serious. I feel like you put this work out there. I feel like stuff is going to start slowly, coming back to you. Where people will feel hey, actually, my great aunt was in this cult, and I found one of the books. I have a feeling sometimes
awesome.
when you put it out there, this is my hope, is that over the years, you keep on getting new pieces of information, just when you think you found everything, it's nope.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I keep getting information over the next few years, I'll put together a part two.
Oh, buddy, we'd love that.
Because I think part one was the accumulation of 2-3 years of research, It's that's everything we knew, at that time. And since then, I haven't learned any more, but that's not to say that there isn't more out there.
Right. Even just the stuff you were able to discover, I remember when the documentary first started, I was oh, this is great, man. I'm how is he going to get more information about this, though? It seems, because it seems like an impossible task, especially when you're, there's UFOs, and then there's, these niche little worlds of subcultures of UFOs. And you are dealing with a niche sub culture of the UFOs. I mean, because I've been studying this stuff my whole life. I've never heard of this cult, and I've heard of a lot of UFO cults because I find them deeply fascinating. So to learn about this new one that was done through cold case research, I was just clapping my hands in my living room, buddy. Truly, I thought it was great work.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it's so exciting too, because a lot of the cases, that I cover, not just in that show, but in many shows that I've done. It's always kind of retracing the steps of the researcher. And
Right.
very rarely do I have the chance to be the researcher,
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, you were kind of everything because it was really. I like the style of it because, like, it really was kind of this fly in the wall feel where it's like we're watching you discover this stuff as it happens, and like you said, you're the filmmaker, you're the star, you're the researcher, and one thing that was nice, you didn't really not that it's always bad to make it about yourself, but you didn't make it about yourself. You made it about the search and the discovery and the adventure of finding this information out, and it really just works. It works for me, so I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, so like, obviously you're a filmmaker, and, I had known about your work for a few years because I really do enjoy a lot of the offerings of Small Town Monsters.
Mhm.
And I saw you on a couple you've been in a lot of the Bigfoot stuff. And
Yeah.
as far as I can tell, is Bigfoot kind of your, was it your gateway drug into all this
I
weird,
would say,
weird stuff?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I started a podcast in 2018 called Cryptid Campfire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of, started as a hobby because I went through a period of my life where I thought, the movie thing isn't going to work out for me. And, I grew up always wanting to make movies. I went to film school, and, LA can be a soul crushing place. And so,
Oh, yeah, sure can.
yeah, everyone that knows LA knows that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love LA. It can be beautiful too, but yeah,
it can be.
It can hurt. It can hurt your feelings.
Yeah, and so I thought, maybe this movie thing isn't for me. And then I was like, well, I don't even know what I would do with my life at this point, It's like the only thing I thought about. And I was kind of like tangentially into Bigfoot. I grew up on Monster Quest, a little bit of Finding Bigfoot, wasn't too much into that, but Monster Quest was where it was at for me. And then so I was like, well, what if we made a podcast that was kind of like Monster Quest, and it was like a Monster of the Week type thing. And, the first episode, I think, is called Battle of the Lake Monsters, and we talk about Champ, Loch Ness, and Ogopogo, and we try to cram all three of them in half an hour, which, no.
It's a tall order, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So it was fun because we ended up revisiting all three of those topics later into multi-hour episodes,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny looking back on it because a lot of the information is wrong. A lot of it's not well explained, but that's the first episode, it was like, it's not perfect. But that was kind of like the gateway into all this stuff. And then through that podcast, I learned more and more about this whole, I guess, subculture of cryptozoology, paranormal. Found out about small town monsters that way. And that's when the light bulb went off. When I found out about Seth, I was like, well, this guy's making movies for a living. And he doesn't live in LA, which means it's possible. And so I knew, I made it my mission to get Seth on the show. And we hit it off, and he invited me to go out and film On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Discovery with him. And then I went out to Washington, met the Olympic Project, and then that's how it all began.
Really? So he knew you were a filmmaker, you guys got along, and he's like, look, I need another camera person. Was that really how it kind of just went like that?
Pretty much. I mean,
hell
I think a lot of it,
that's great.
we have a lot of similar interests when it comes to film and whatnot. So I think that's what really helped it. When you're in a position like that, you have to be careful who you're inviting out, and at that point, I was in your position. I was the guy interviewing him, and he was just like, it's kind of like a tall order. Like, I don't want to just ask, hey, can you give me a job? But
Yeah.
it's,
Right.
so I don't know. It really worked out, and all of that happened after the episode. So, of course, I don't have that part of the conversation recorded, but
Right.
I would love to go back and hear it because I think that was in 2020. September of 2020 is when I had that conversation with Seth. And
Well, that's amazing because that's just a 5-year period, and I feel like you're all over the small town monster stuff.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
you're a big player. 'Cause I mean, like I have seen, they have a lot of content, and I have seen a lot of it, and so I feel like I've seen you in 20 different things. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and you're great. Like I like like I like the small town monsters thing. Is I put it this way, and I mean this so lovingly. Like y'all really love what you're doing. You're passionate. You're committed, but you don't take yourself like too seriously. You know what I'm
No.
saying? Where it's like, I know all the answers. I know what it's like, and you're not over promising. You're just like, look, we're gonna go out, we're gonna shoot it, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a genuine like excitedness, like you guys feel excited about what you're doing, which I always
Oh
think
yeah.
is which is
Oh
wonderful.
yeah.
You should be. You're adventuring, right?
Yeah. On that note of not taking us ourselves too seriously, I was at Monster Fest 2 last year. I was doing the screening for Cursed Waters, Creature of Lake
Uh-huh.
Okanagan, and there was a Q&A, and somebody asked, Eli, do you what's your thought process behind adding in humor to your documentaries? And I was like, I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's why it's like, I could have edited my hike up to the cabin in a way that you never found out that I was ever like, oh, I don't have water, I don't have Crocs, and I would have looked badass and super prepared. And it's like, but the truth is sometimes funny. It's like, yeah, I went up there in my Crocs and I was sweating
Yeah.
and I didn't have water.
Yeah, and I really wish I had a snack right now. Like I love it. There's a humble aspect to it where it's like it makes you more identifiable. Like I mean, now I'm talking about like strictly like perception of cinema, but like for me, it draws me in more because like I don't believe there is a person out there that exists or has ever existed who really knows what the hell's going on with all this stuff. Like we all have our ideas and we have our experiences and all that stuff, but like there are a lot of people, especially when they're making content for this stuff, who kind of tell you that they know everything that's going on and like what this stuff represents, what it means, and it is gospel and fact. And to me, that's an instant turnoff where I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't.
and that's why I like it seems like a common thread throughout the small town master stuff. There is like a level of humility with what's going on. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I mean, Seth and I, we really, our big bonding came from our similar approach to the whole subject matter, which is, it's less about Bigfoot, it's less about UFOs, it's more about the people. And, as these things happen, because that UFO craze was real.
Yeah.
And everyone starts running away with, oh, who's piloting the flying saucers? But what I'm interested in is, well, what was going on inside people's heads while that was going on,
Right.
And it's like with the case of Everett Lee, you find out there's, in a lot of the contactees, you're dealing with, we've entered a new age. The atomic bomb has been invented, and now there's these UFOs from outer space. There's this counterculture of, should Christianity be questioned? It's like all these things that are coming together, and then boom, the contactees are a thing, and it's like, that's interesting in and of itself.
Absolutely. I mean, like, if nothing else, the whole UFO phenomenon and its history from a sociological standpoint is deeply fascinating and I think very important.
Yeah.
Even if there's nothing genuine or real about it, we're watching modern mythology in the making.
Exactly.
And that's deeply fascinating, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really, really cool. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, one of my favorite topics in college and high school, actually, was anthropology. And so it's like I kind of get to put on the anthropology lenses, and kind of see, this is a story of people reacting to weird and strange phenomena, and it's like, with Bigfoot, I go even deeper, because of the nature of how much I dug into the topic of Sasquatch, it's like, 100. I still don't know what UFOs are, what aliens are. I don't know if we truly do know. There's 1,000 different opinions on it.
I'm with you on that. I don't think we'll ever know.
But when it comes to Bigfoot, it's like, well, there's a big hairy humanoid walking around in our woods. Like, that seems to be real. And people are having sightings with them, and And then but that's when I get into the people thing again. It's like, okay, our modern age of Sasquatch researchers and all these YouTubers, Small Town Monsters is a part of it. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, what's
Yeah.
going on here?
An industry has been created by this creature, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like, I'm not sure whether Bigfoot intended that, but
Yeah, right.
but however, it's a big part of the media landscape with some of these esoteric films
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I grew up on Monster Quest and Harry and the Hendersons, and I think I've made more episodes of Small Town Monsters than there are episodes of Monster Quest. It's
Right,
like, wow.
right.
Yeah,
And there doesn't seem to be any sign of stopping. Like, I feel like the whole umbrella of STM is just like growing and growing, and I love it. Like,
Yeah.
please keep on making more stuff. Well, let's kind of let's dig into Bigfoot, shall we, Eli?
Yeah, let's do it.
We all love Bigfoot. Bigfoot's wonderful. I myself, I try to document a lot of the Bigfoot stuff that's happening in Nebraska because, believe it or not, there's a fairly long history of Bigfoot in Nebraska.
There is.
Which is mind-boggling, and all over the Midwest, which I think people, I mean, not you, of course, but like a lot of people think like, oh, it's only in the Pacific Northwest and some places on the East Coast, but it's like just everywhere, right?
Oh,
These
yeah.
reports,
I
which is
believe it.
fascinating. Yeah, it's very interesting, but like when you are going out, because like you do, the wonderful thing about you is that you're not like really an armchair researcher. You are a researcher for sure. I mean, just watching the Mountain of God, that comes through very clearly. But I mean, like, I know you as like an investigator, like a boots in the ground, a guy who's camping in the forest for days and days on end. Like, talk to me about what it is like to actually go into the woods for days on end and look for a large hairy humanoid.
That's a good question. It's simultaneously boring and also one of the best experiences ever. Because a lot of the times you're out there and nothing's going on, and
Right.
I've seen guys, I've been out in the woods with people who like they take that to heart. That's a personal attack. I'm out in the woods and Bigfoot didn't show up. What the heck? And it's like,
He owes me.
that's how it feels sometimes. And it's like,
Yeah.
but then you're like, wait a second. I'm in an area with no cell reception, which to some people is scary, but to me it's really nice. And there's only the woods, and it's only me, and it's quiet. And it's like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, and like I can tell by the docs, like you're surrounded by unthinkable beauty. It's like if you can't enjoy that, then there's something wrong with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, and then you're pulling long nights because you're trying to have some sort of activity happen, and every once in a while you'll get lucky. I think over the course of 5 years, I've been in close proximity to a Sasquatch like 6 times.
Okay. Jesus Christ, this is beautiful. Okay, I'm excited about this. Look at me, I'm shifting in my chair. Okay, I love this. Before I start asking questions about the proximity of being in proximity of Bigfoot, I'm going to ask some kind of like dumb questions, but like I rarely get to talk to somebody who is like doing this kind of field investigation.
Okay.
What is, and I'm going to ask a lot of like mundane questions, but like, what is the preparation? Like, you are like leaving from Temecula. Are you like, let's say you're shooting in Washington, because I know you have been to the Pacific Northwest quite a few times, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are you driving like in your car? Like, do you pack up the car with everything you need, or are you flying up there and then getting your gear up there and kind of piecing it together?
I've done both. So usually it begins with communication with people I'm planning on going out with. Setting up a time, making it happen, setting the dates. And then I go up there, depending on the weather. I'm looking at the weather, what that's going to be like. Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be raining? and then bringing the proper equipment up there. You know, I've driven up to Washington once. From Temecula, Washington is a 2-day drive, so I was like, well, this is kind of, I'm just wasting time. And then you get there and you're exhausted, so it's like, you know. So flying is much better. It's a 3-hour flight. It's like, boom, you're there, and
Easy.
you have all your stuff with you, and you're good to go. So, yeah, flying is definitely the way to go. Lately, I've been going into the Sierra Nevada mountains, and that's kind of been my point of research lately. And that I will drive. I will drive up there. And
what is that, about 9 hours from you?
Yeah, you know, Yosemite is about 9. I tend sometimes to go even further north than that. So, yeah, and that same thing. I'm just bringing all my stuff in the car. It's nicer when you have a car because you can bring more stuff. You're not trying to shove it into a bag, you know?
You can bring your favorite cooler. You know, that goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I bring all my stuff. I bring all my camera gear. I make sure, you know, batteries are charged. Because sometimes you're in the woods for 4 or 5 days and you don't have a place to recharge, you know?
Yeah, that's the stuff I think about with you when you guys are out there. I'm like, they were charging their shit. Like,
yeah.
You know, like...
Well, I do have a big battery that allows you to plug in, and it has solar panels. So I've brought that a couple times.
Great. Okay.
If I know I'm going to be in the woods like more than 4 days, I will bring that along, and I will just keep the solar panels out all day long and let it charge up. And so I'm always good to go on power. Because sometimes the car charger, it doesn't cut it.
Yeah, it's also very slow when it comes to that kind of stuff too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, those are the considerations. Food, you know, a lot of the times.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, Mountain House meals go a long way. The freeze-dried meals, those go a huge way. Water's the big one because a lot of the times you're packing that in, you know.
Yeah.
Because you can't count on a fresh stream, you know. It's nice when you do find one, and then you know I have a filter that I can kind of, and that's the best water up there when it's like cold mountain water. That's the best. Yeah. But sometimes it's dried out, you know. So but yeah, those are the considerations: food, camera gear, camping gear. It's just you end up bringing a lot. So
yeah. Well, you'd have to, because I mean, like, you guys are like embedded for a while, like it seems, in a spot. Yeah, sometimes we are. So I mean, like, in all honesty, is there like, obviously there's probably excitement, like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm going on an adult adventure with people you probably like. I'm assuming you like your other coworkers with these things. But like, is there like a level of like kind of like butterflies in your stomach, like where you're like, oh, maybe this is the time I see like something crazy, you know, like?
I think in the beginning for me, yes. More recently, no. Maybe that's me becoming slightly jaded, but I really don't expect stuff to happen in the woods. And you can kind of see that change in my work where I'm less embedded out in the woods, just because I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, we can be out there, we can have knocks happen, we can be close to one, but if I'm not filming it, you know, or I'm not seeing it, what are we really learning about this creature, you know?
Yeah.
And I know some guys who live for that stuff. They live for that scary experience out in the woods. But again, to me, my interest always lies in the people. You know, I'm like, this is more interesting to me, you know?
It's also more reliable, you know?
Yeah, it is. But it's like, it's always interesting to me to hear. It's like, well, I saw one, you know, 10 years ago, and it freaked me out. I never stepped back in the woods for like 2 years. I'm like, so why did you go back in the woods? You know?
Yeah.
You know? And because it's like, you know, and I've had some stuff happen, you know, not too long ago where I was like, dude, I don't know if I want to go back out in the woods. I'm scared, you know?
Well, do you mind, I mean, like, not to jump the gun here, but like, do you mind talking about some of your experiences?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first kind of experience I had, I was back in 2021. I was going to Bluff Creek, California. I was going down to the camp called Louse Camp, big historic campsite for all the Bigfooters. You know, John Green, Renee DeHinden, they were all down there.
Yeah, the OGs, man.
Yeah, so it was me, Alex Pedikov, and Tate Hieronymus, and we were driving
I know
down.
Tate. Tate's been on the show. Yeah, Tate's a great guy.
Tate is great. Maybe he told this story. I don't know. But
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of... They probably think it's old news, but to me it's still pretty exciting. But
yeah.
We were driving down the logging road. You know, it's an old kind of rough road, big rocks and whatnot. We kind of came to this spot where there's just like a crap ton of rocks that are sure to pop our tires. So we stop, we get out, we're throwing these rocks out over the edge. We're hearing them crash down into the creek below. And then all of a sudden, all these rocks start coming down off the side of the hill right towards us, you know?
Whoa.
And it was like, whoa. And we're like taking cover behind our cars because some of these are like softball sized, you know? And it's like...
Are they like rolling down the hill?
They were rolling down the hill, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa. And we all were like looking up there and trying to figure out what was going on. Couldn't see anything. We're shining our flashlights, you know? And then... down below us, we hear something moving down in the creek, you know? Well, we came back to that spot the next day, and we're, like, examining, you know, like, what's going on. We ended up hiking to the top where the rocks ended up coming down from, and it was the only clear spot. And you could see the road going all the way back. So if something had been standing there, it might have been watching us come in, you know? Isn't that wild?
That is wild. Yeah. Also, I mean, that would make me feel like, in all honesty, a little unsettled. Like, oh, something knows we're here.
Yeah. I was like, really, it was like just the perfect spot to be standing, to see people come in and also have a vantage point of being able to throw rocks down on people if it wanted to.
What time of day was this?
That, when the rocks came down on us, it was like 1 a.m.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was dark.
Good God, that'd be horrifying.
Yeah.
I would be scared.
So, you know, later, on the last day of that trip, I think we were there for 10 days or so, we went up to Laird Meadow. And Laird Meadow is also another historical spot up there. I think Patterson was there in 1966, I believe, cast a print. There's been a couple prints actually cast in Laird Meadow. And so we went out at night doing our night investigation and stuff again. And now there was more people. There was Ron Reed and his dog Bandit. And he was with a group of people, and I feel so terrible. I do not know their names. But
yeah, it's okay.
They stayed out on the road while Alex, Tate, and Jonathan Easley of Western Bigfoot Exploration, he came out with us too. And so we split into groups of 2 and 2. And there was like this patch of trees right in the middle of the meadow. And so me and Jonathan got in that patch of trees. Alex and Tate went across the meadow into the actual tree line. And we just thought, you know, well, maybe these things do knocks to communicate with each other. So we'll just do a couple knocks back and forth between ourselves. See if that stirs up some activity. Well, at that time, Ron and the rest of that gang, they went up the road a ways, and so we were just alone in the meadow, and we're doing knocks back and forth. And then we hear over the walkie-talkie that Tate and Alex felt like something was thrown at them from behind, or a tree was possibly knocked over, and then it was like the woods just exploded out towards the road. It was like bam, 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 bam.
What do you mean? Like tree knocks?
Tree knocks, like loud tree knocks, and it was like 5 of them in a row, just like that, just like how I said it. And we were all like, holy shit. Excuse my language, but
you're fine.
You know, and I had never heard anything like that. You know, that was my first time hearing a tree knock. And, you know, so we all came back out, you know, and we find Ron, and we're like, was that you? We're pretty sure you were up the road, but was that you? And he was like, no, we were up the road when that happened. And so that was not us, and apparently they didn't hear it. So we ended up staying. Most of that crew left, and so it ended up being us four again. And we stayed back and we sat in the middle of the road, and it was like a full moon. And you know, when it's a full moon like that out in the woods, underneath the trees, the shade of the trees is like extra dark.
Yeah.
You know, you really can't see. And so we were just sitting there and just hanging out, being quiet. And I remember we're looking right down the road, and I heard something take a few steps on the right, and then it stopped. I was like, well, that could be anything. And then it was like the same sound, same amount of steps on the left-hand side, and then it stopped. I was like, okay, that's really weird. And then another on the right, and then it stopped, and then again on the left. And it was just like whatever this was on either side of us was getting closer and closer, and they were each only taking a few steps and then stopping, and then the other one would go. And it was like I was getting really freaked out. And then
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Alex spoke out, and you know, I'm conflicted on how I feel about it, because he spoke out, said, "We know you're here. We want to see you, whatnot." Well, after he was done speaking, we never heard another sound again. And, you know, part of me is like, I wish he hadn't spoke,
Yeah.
but at the other part of me is like, I'm glad he did say something, because it stopped it. So,
Yeah. At the time, you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm happy it stopped. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to see what this is, you know?
I hear you, man.
So, yeah, so that was, the first experience I ever had out in the woods. I could not believe it. That was a really weird trip, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, was that the trip? I believe when I talked to Tate, because I was asking him. You know, I'm interested in like a lot of the kind of symptomatic. Symptomatic is not the right word. I'm trying to think. Okay, so a lot of the other things that sometimes people report with Bigfoot encounters, such as like, you know, balls of light and weird sounds of like car doors and babies crying and stuff like that, which are a lot of hallmarks of other paranormal manifestations, right?
Yeah.
And I think Tate was telling me, and I don't know if it was on the trip, where he did tell me he saw like a ball of light.
Yeah, we did.
So you saw this too?
Yeah.
Please, will you tell this story, because I can't remember it exactly.
Yeah, so there's this go road. They call it the go road. And so the intention behind it, the state of California was trying to connect those mountains there to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And the Native American people were not happy about that, because it was cutting right through their sacred sites and whatnot, which there's plenty of other land to go around that. But
Yeah,
you know,
go around it.
no, it's, you know, they ended up stopping it, and at the end of the road is painted, at the end of the asphalt, it says no go. And so we went to the end of the go road,
Mm-hmm.
and it overlooks this valley. And, you know, we were there and kind of sharing some stories about different experiences and stuff. And, you know, we see this ball of light kind of floating out over the valley. It wasn't up in space. It was over the valley. Like,
It was below you.
no,
What?
it was just a little bit above us,
Okay.
you know, but it wasn't in the sky. It was like, oh, that's kind of right there, you know, maybe,
Right.
I don't even know, 50 yards away, you
Oh,
know,
God, that's
but
close.
floating over the valley. And it's going from west to east, and it's white in the center, but the edges are orangish, you know, and it's
Okay.
glowing, and it's going up and down, and then it stops midair, and then it keeps going and going, and then it would stop. And we watched this thing for 10, 15 minutes. I mean, it got to the point where some of the guys there were like not interested in it anymore.
Yeah, like, all right, well, yeah.
It's like, it's just doing the same thing. And I was like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. I'm not
Right.
And I watched it, and we were there late because then the sun started coming up, and by that point it's way to the east, and as the sun comes up, I lose it in the sunlight, and it's too bright and I can't see it. It didn't disappear. I lost it in the light, and I don't know what that was,
Well, I mean, are you familiar with Stan Gordon and Stan Gordon's work in southwestern Pennsylvania? Like, I really love his work a lot, and I really am interested in a lot of the cases from Pennsylvania and Ohio, and kind of that region. As I am, and cases from anywhere. But what I do like about Stan's work is that he really, before it was kind of hip, was like brave enough to include a lot of these weirder cases.
Right.
And in a lot of the cases I've found in Nebraska and people I've talked to, there's a lot of weird stuff associated with their Bigfoot encounter that doesn't seem that it's just kind of like, at a certain point, I guess I suppose, like, there are patterns that do emerge, with Bigfoot. There's, obviously they leave prints, they can leave hair, the knocks, some of the vocalizations. But then at a certain point, I feel like we maybe can't deny that there is often some other weird, I guess you would say, paranormal-ish stuff that does happen in the proximity of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Such as seeing a ball of light float around for a long time, like you saw.
Yeah.
And like, what do you do with that in terms of, like, do you kind of like mark it down and say, well, this is totally separate, has nothing to do with Bigfoot, I guess just I was at the right place at the right time? Or, because, you're not the first person to report that. That is, the ball of light thing is something I've heard quite a bit at this point,
Yep.
So where do you kind of stand with that? Do you find that that's a pattern worth like paying attention to?
I don't know. I used to be a lot more closed off to it. Not that I denied the experience of orbs, because obviously my first trip where I had any sort of Bigfoot activity, I saw an orb. But I didn't see it in the same place as where I was having my Sasquatch experiences, and I also didn't have a Sasquatch experience that night. So, different night, different area, miles away, but the same woods though. And also not the first person to see an orb at that spot or in other spots in that area where I had Sasquatch experiences. So, what really started turning me around to it though was like the Sierra Nevadas, because you get a lot of reports of balls of light in the Sierras, and I don't know what they are. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to say they're connected to Sasquatch, because a lot of times they're seen in the same areas, but not always in the presence of a Sasquatch, or vice versa. But that I don't know what they are, because there's some tendency, like California has a lot of granite. And there's some sort of energy, they think granite is kind of like an energy conductor, so maybe it's manifesting these balls of light. But at the same time, some of these balls of light, they move around or they interact in ways that seem to be intelligent, So then it's more than just like a geological phenomenon.
Right, they seem playful oftentimes, like in reports I've read,
Like the one I saw, I don't know. It moved from east to west, and that's all I know. It didn't have any sort of interaction with us at all. I mean, we even filmed it, and it's like, it didn't change its course. It didn't move faster all of a sudden. It just did what it did, So it's like, what the heck is that, I know I don't want to speak out of turn, but from what I was told in 2021, the Yurok people believe that the Sasquatch traveled through the woods in the form of a ball of light, you know, and that's how they travel faster. And it's like, I'm not going to discount that,
right?
So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it is very interesting, and I mean, I there's no way, like, I wasn't expecting it's like, well, I actually know what the ball of light is, FYI. Oh, you didn't know what it was? It's a it's a fairy. No,
Yeah.
but like, but it is one of those interesting things. Like when you read Silent Invasion, I believe it's called by
Yeah.
Stan Gordon. The cases in there are just so abstract and surreal,
Yeah.
and they're not like I mean, there are just some straight Bigfoot sightings, but a lot of the cases do have this kind of like almost paranormal vibe about them. Where it's like,
Mhm.
wow, is Sasquatch more than just like a flesh of blood, relic hominid that we haven't discovered yet? Or like I'm open to both ideas. Like, I also think could it be both? Like it
Could
could,
be.
like maybe there is flesh and blood Bigfoot, and then there maybe is some kind of like, I think it was Ted Holiday said like he had this quote years ago, I believe it was. I hope I'm gonna probably butcher it, but it's something like in the west of the Rocky or east of the Rockies, there is a flesh and blood Bigfoot. East of the Rockies, it's the Goblin universe.
The Goblin universe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of a fun way to put it. But have you ever experienced anything, I guess, like else that you would kind of consider like high strange or paranormal when you've been in the woods?
Mm, no.
Mhm.
I have had some experiences in Nebraska though.
Shut up, dude. Tell me. Oh my God, please.
So it was
Where were you in Nebraska? Oh my God, were you in Macy?
I was in Macy.
Okay, with the
Whoa.
Red Squatch boys.
Yeah, how do you know
Yeah.
about that? Yeah.
Brother, I'm all over the eastern Nebraska Bigfoot situation. I've talked to Derek and Barry before.
No way. Yeah, they
Yeah,
know
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know me. That's so funny. Well,
Yeah.
uh, I think it was 2022. I did one movie outside of STM, and so I did it with Outcast Paranormal, which was started by
Sea
Stacey
Tonga.
Brown. Yeah,
Sea Tonga? You worked on Sea Tonga?
yeah.
Shut up. That's
I'm the one.
amazing.
Yeah, I filmed it and I edited it together.
Oh my God.
So you
that's
know
crazy.
it.
I didn't know that.
See,
I've seen it. Are you kidding me? It's a Nebraska Bigfoot movie, dude. Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, wow, that's the first.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Oh, I'm a deep nerd, man.
Yeah, go back and watch the credits or look it up on IMDb. My name's all over it.
I truly had no idea you were involved in that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
First, I can't believe you've been to Nebraska looking for Bigfoot. You're a great guy, Eli. As I couldn't like you enough already. But well, God. So let's talk about that experience.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of weird. Cuz what I had been told was like, "Oh, the people on the res there they have the body of a Bigfoot." I was like, "Okay.
I'd never heard that.
Oh,
That's okay.
well, yeah, anyways.
Yeah, maybe we can talk off the air about that if you want.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that I was supposed to reveal, but
That's
anyway,
okay. That's okay. That's okay. I
That's
can
what they
edit that
say.
out too.
We got
Yeah.
there and we were like, "Okay, we're ready for this." And they're like, "No, you're not." And we're like, "Yes, we are." And they're like, "No, you're not." And we're like, "Okay, I guess we're not."
Yeah. Whatever you say.
Whatever you say. So, yeah, we ended up doing lots of paranormal investigation on that trip. So that was like a real bait and switch for me a little bit. I think it was a bait and switch for the whole camera crew, but because we were out there thinking we were going to do a Bigfoot thing, and we ended up doing paranormal investigation. And I've had some paranormal experiences in LA, and that was enough to like kind of turn me off from that because I really am not comfortable with things. I'm sensitive in that way where I have dreams and things. And so like when things that I see in the real world or experience in the real world start infiltrating my dreams, I'm like, that's enough. Like, I don't want that, like,
Yeah.
I don't have Bigfoot dreams, so,
Yet.
yeah, right. So, yeah, then all of a sudden I'm in Macy, Nebraska doing paranormal investigations, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here?
Wow.
And, that was like my first time being in the presence. I didn't use any of the equipment, but I was involved with filming it, and I was there while we were using spirit boxes and other sort of devices. And, we're going into these houses that had, like, paranormal backstories to them and whatnot. And it was just like, or like people were murdered in these houses. And I'm like, why are we going in here?
Yeah, I don't want to go into a murder house. I didn't sign up for this.
And, these are all places right on the res, so it was like, and that was like, I think the second night we did it was the most like profound for me, because that was when RPG said, what's my middle name? And then we heard it loud and clear, like a deep man voice say Paul, and RPG is Ryan Paul Golombesky, so it was like
Right.
Paul, and he's like, what's my mother's maiden name? And then it says it clear as day. I can't remember what it was, but it got it right. And then
Whoa.
James, I love James so much, but he's standing there with the spirit box in his hands, and he's like, oh, what was that? And or it said something beforehand, and it was like, look out, or something like that. And then he's like, oh, what was that? And he was standing with his back to an open window, and there was nothing behind him, And I was trained right on him the whole time, so I'm watching this whole thing. And he ends up pulling his pants down, and we end up examining. He's like, something like pinched me on the back of my leg, and he had this like freaking red circle on the back of his leg. And it was just like, where did that come from? And I remember it took months for that mark to go away, too. Yeah, you got to get James on here. James Brost, he's the dude.
Okay.
And I could probably help you get in touch with him. But yeah,
Let's do that after this. Yeah.
yeah. But James, yeah, that happened, and I remember, they kept asking it more questions, and it kept saying things, and it was just like this really dark energy and voice. And I remember I started praying silently in my head, and they kept asking it questions while I was praying, not knowing I was praying. And every time they asked it a question as I prayed, it kept saying, stop. And then I was like, huh. So I stopped praying. They ask it a question. It answers. I go back to praying. It goes back to saying, stop.
Wow.
And so I'm like, what? I mean, if that doesn't make you believe in God, I don't know what does. It's like, wow.
You're like, holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that was enough for me, man. I'm not super into the paranormal stuff, but that was like, yeah, there's some stuff going on,
There seems to be, like, that whole region, even north of Macy, like, really the whole eastern board of Nebraska, going right along the Missouri River, which Macy does, is where 90% of, like, the real weird high strangeness that I can discover has taken place. And Macy is really just one of those places. Like, I've talked to people who have gone out with them, and they're like, well, I was kind of disappointed. We didn't see a Bigfoot, but we saw all these purple orbs of light. I'm like, whoa, well, that's pretty crazy. I mean, like,
Yeah.
But like some of the stuff they report are, well, first off, like, it seems that Bigfoot's such a common occurrence there that like comes into town and goes through people's trash cans. And I've heard some and like, look, I'm not saying like, I'm not so credulous. I just believe everything I'm told, but like, I think there's something going on the reservation, and and obviously you've had some weird experiences, and I've talked to like 3 people who have gone out with them. They're like, dude, it was a wild night. Like,
Yeah.
and then so you kind of go back and you think about, well, where the hell would a group of Bigfoot be hiding around there? Because there is forest and there is a tree line. But it's not like, I mean, for most part, it is flatland Nebraska.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, wow, where the hell do these things go during the day? Like
Yeah.
it's, because it's pretty thin in terms of like forest and trees around there.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember RPG and Derek and I were walking around, and we came up over this hill here, one of the few hills out there. But
Yeah.
we ended up spooking a whole like flock of deer.
Whoa.
And as they ran away, I noticed that they didn't make a sound. And there was like leaves on the ground and everything. And it was like, And I pointed that out. I said, RPG, did you hear that? And he's like, yeah, just a bunch of deer. And I was like, dude, they didn't make any sound. And he's like, holy crap, you're right. And so it's like, they could be moving around silently. They could be standing there, you know? I mean, I don't know. If these things stand as still as people report that they do, we could have walked right past one and never seen it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
So, did you feel that you got any Bigfoot activity while you were there?
no,
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. But I mean, but you definitely had some weird experiences. So I
yeah,
mean,
dude.
would that be a place you'd want to go back to and investigate again?
No.
No, it was that unsettling,
I didn't like
which
it,
makes me
man.
feel like I have to go out.
You should. Yeah, link up with
I
Barry
need
and
to.
Derek, man. Those,
I know. Yeah. I actually had a phone conversation with them. I don't know them at all, except for I did talk to Barry on the phone when I first moved back to Nebraska. I heard about them. Like, oh my God, wow.
yeah.
And I called them, and he was like, he was very strict on the phone. He's like, no drinking out there. I'm like, oh yes, sir. And he's like, no dope smoking either. I'm like, yes, sir. Okay. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
And he's like, are you spiritual? I'm like, oh, no. Well, no, I guess. And he was like, he didn't love that because he's a very spiritual man.
Yes, he is.
Nothing wrong with that, but like, yeah, I think I couldn't tell if he liked the cut of my jib or not, but like, I would like to go out with them just to experience it.
Yeah, they're very selective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they weren't too keen on me showing up because I guess the rest of the crew did not tell them I was coming up there. So here I am, just kind of showing up, and they're all like, who's this guy,
Yeah.
But by the end, they ended up, they loved me up there for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but they gave me a nickname, I'm like,
Oh, that's awesome.
so, yeah, that's one of the highlights, though. There has never been any kind of film shoot I've ever done that has been like that. So,
I mean, like, well, and thing is, like, like they are, like you said, incredibly selective on who they let on to the reservation there.
yeah.
Like, even just beyond like Barry and those guys, like in general, and like for I think a very good reason, like.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, the history of what's been happening in Macy is quite fascinating because there is a lot of very dramatic UFO sightings in that area. There's flying wing humanoid sightings in the area.
Interesting.
Balls of light are very common, and then there's a long history of Bigfoot. I mean,
Yeah.
like, and even going further up north of Macy, going all the way up to basically the South Dakota border, same thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, you can go back and find cases from 100 years ago. So,
Yeah.
like, it seems like something's going on.
It seems like something's going on. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you guys get involved with the red squatching guys in Macy? I'm just curious.
I don't know the full origins. I know Stacy Brown Jr. went up and did a series with them. I don't know what was the initial point of contact there.
Right.
They ended up hating Stacy, and they said he's not welcome back.
Okay.
I don't know why, but so Stacy kind of funded this expedition out there for the return trip because they liked everyone else on the crew, and so they were like, well, you can come back, but Stacy can't come back. And then they were like, well, we need one more camera guy, and that's kind of how I got asked to be part of it. So I was like, and they kind of filled me in on the whole thing. I was like, wow, that sounds crazy. Like, yeah, I'll go do that. And so I went and did it, and they said we could come back, but I don't think any of us have. So yeah.
Well, it seems like it does kind of like when you said bait and switch. Like, I was going in to that documentary feeling like this is strictly going to be a Bigfoot documentary, but it really is.
It's not.
It probably leans more paranormal than Bigfoot, yeah. Which, I mean, like, that's not disappointing. I still really enjoyed it, like, because even for a guy like me, like, I can't go on the reservation. So in my head, I've been reading about this and hearing about this place for so long. Just to see it on camera was super gratifying for me. Like, but yeah, I mean, like, it's really interesting what they have. It's so crazy you were involved in that. What a small world.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that wild?
It's about 75 minutes from where I live.
That's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. I've driven up there multiple times and like driven through it. Not without like trespassing. Just to like experience the magic of place and stuff like that. But Yeah, I'm dying to go out there with those guys. It's a good reminder. I need to reach out to them.
Yeah, you should. You'll have
Yeah.
a once in a lifetime experience, man.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so many people who go out there with them are always like, "Well, yeah, we saw the balls of light," and they almost sound bored by that. But I'm like, dude, if you could guarantee me orbs of light, I would jump over the moon for that. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, well, now that I think about it, the first night there, Derek took RPG and I out to this spot in the woods, and there was the best way I could describe it, like eye shine, but it was
Uh-huh.
3 different colors, and it was like orange, green, blue, I think. And it started as like one little light that was kind of moving up and down, and then it was like, oh, there's 2 lights here, and then there was like more lights over here, and then there was like all these lights, and I was
Wow.
like, what the heck is this? And Derek was like, that's them. And I was like, what do you mean them? Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? And that was,
Yeah.
that's
Any
Derek.
specifics here?
Yeah, that's Derek. And then,
Yeah.
we're like standing there watching this for like 15 minutes. And then he's like, all right, we got to go. And I was like, what do you mean? The lights are still here. And he's like, yeah, we got to go. And so we got in the truck and we left. And, but I've talked to a couple other people that I knew were there, and they've had the exact same experience in the exact same spot. So I don't believe, because some people are like, oh, well, it's a hoax because people keep having that same exact experience. But I'm like,
Right.
I don't really know how they would hoax that, to be honest.
Yeah. Right.
What, they have like 40 people out in the woods with little lights,
Yeah, running around. I mean, you would kind of see, even through the darkness, you would see a human figure. Like, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
And I'm like, I just don't think so. I don't think so. And then like all of it was so unplanned, spontaneous, it was
Right.
just kind of like, oh, we're going here. Oh, we're going there. Like I said, it was a
Right.
whole bait and switch situation where it's
Yeah.
like, we're going up there for one thing and then it ended up being something else. And as far as I can tell, none of them, they didn't call up their buddies and were like, hey, we're going here. It's like, it was just kind of, everything just kind of happened,
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what the light was, because they were going up and down and they would move side to side. Just
So
odd.
you saw orbs of light out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were orbs though, because they were like little pinpricks of light, like
Weird.
like eye shine almost,
Uh-huh.
and then sometimes they would kind of blink out and then almost like they were blinking. It was weird.
Right. So, like, when you were like out there shooting the documentary, obviously, or not, maybe not obviously, but they understood like you were coming out there to make a Bigfoot documentary,
Yeah.
and so were they kind of like at a certain point, like, hey, let's go do the spirit box in this cabin? And you're like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
how did it kind of change? Was it just like that's what they wanted to do?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it was exactly as you described. We got there and
Yeah.
we were like, hey, we're ready to do this Bigfoot stuff, like I was saying.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're not ready for that. And we're like, yes, we are. No, you're not.
Why we came? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why
Yeah.
we're here. And they're like,
Yeah.
we're going to this house instead. And we're going to bust out the spirit box and we're going to do this. And we're like, okay, I guess that's the plan now.
All right.
Yeah.
Really? And so you didn't do much Bigfoot investigating then?
No,
At
not at
all.
all. Weird, huh?
That's peculiar. Yeah. It is definitely weird. Well, because also it's like, I mean, like, I don't keep incredibly close tabs on Barry, but like I know he's on like Facebook and we'll like go live like at midnight and stuff, and he's fairly active, and they don't really talk about paranormal investigations ever that I can recall. It's always Bigfoot stuff, and
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny.
I don't know. They pick and choose what information they want to get out and how they
Uh-huh.
want it to get out. And
Yeah.
I can't always follow the logic behind it all. So,
Right. Well, respect, and that's what however they want to do it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
Hey,
interesting. Wow, that small world though. That's great. I
Yeah.
can't believe you were part of that and you have been up there. That's so amazing.
yeah, man.
It's wild.
So-
So, like, what in terms of like, do you feel that like since you have started investigating, doing field research in earnest, like you're doing, has your idea about Bigfoot, what it is, what it represents, evolved at all? Or are you still kind of in the same place? I know this is kind of speculation station situation here. Like, obviously, I'm not saying you know for sure, but
Well,
have your feelings I guess have they evolved at all, or are they still kind of in the same zone?
maybe not a dramatic a bunch, not dramatically, I would say, because I went from, because I knew about Bigfoot growing up, but I never really gave it any thought. And then as
Hmm.
I got into the podcast, I became pretty convinced that Bigfoot was real.
Right.
But now I'm at the point where I'm like, no, Bigfoot is 100% real, and no one's going to tell me different. You
Right.
know, my thoughts are that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood animal. I don't know if it necessarily has a sort of spiritual aspect to it. I think it is a strange and unusual animal, but I think it's an animal.
Right.
So I guess that, getting into the orbs again, it's like I think the orbs are something different, because I am a spiritual person. I do
Mhm.
think there's other stuff beyond what we can see. I just don't think
Yeah.
Bigfoot is one of those things,
Right.
Um, but yeah, I guess the biggest change is like I'm like 100% certain Bigfoot's real. And it's like, yeah, I'll make a joke with people and stuff about it, but I'm like, you know, depending on the conversation, I'm like, how deep do you want to go? Like,
Yeah.
how deep do you want to go? Because Bigfoot is 100% real.
Right.
So,
So you kind of when you were going into this, were you convinced that Bigfoot was real, or were you had a pretty good sense that you felt it was real, and by investigating it further and having these experiences, now you feel like you have this knowing?
yes, that's exactly how I feel. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is super interesting because I feel like a lot of people, when they go into with thinking there's something to this, and a lot of people when they research, they become more skeptical of things. Where I feel like, but you've had some experiences to bolster your thinking
Well,
on it, so yeah, it makes sense.
I think a lot of it comes down to intention.
Mhm.
It's I don't know how to explain it. It's like these things are so strange and so elusive and so smart.
Yeah.
It gets into the thing about, what I was saying. Some people go out in the woods and they get upset Bigfoot didn't show up.
Right.
And I've never had that expectation that Bigfoot will show up. And maybe that's
Yeah.
why I've had stuff happen.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
it's almost
Okay,
like
yeah.
I'm not there to see Bigfoot. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if a Bigfoot walks in front of me and I see it, yeah, I'm gonna be overjoyed. But I'm like, that's not why I'm going out into the woods. You
Right.
know, I'm going
Right.
out into the woods to be in the woods.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
so
Yeah,
kind of going on your ideas about Bigfoot. So, you think it's a flesh and blood creature that is probably maybe part of the animal kingdom.
yeah,
That would lead a person like me to believe that you feel that it will be discovered one day and will have definitive proof. Because I feel like it's so hard for something that size to stay hidden forever. Like,
yeah,
if Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature, it is miraculous to me that it has not been officially discovered, or we haven't found a body. Because even though I know finding bear bones and bear remains and mountain lion remains is extremely rare,
yeah.
well, we do have them. We do have the remains.
Right, but
So with Bigfoot, I guess it's incredible it could be hidden this long.
yeah, it's true. There's also a lot of woods for them to hide in. Maybe not in Macy,
Absolutely.
Nebraska, but in other parts of the woods.
Right? No,
But
I hear you.
and we also don't know. That's the big dilemma. Is there's all sorts of theories about maybe it's Gigantopithecus, maybe it's some like an Australopithecine. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm not even
and
gonna try
it's
to say
like,
that.
we don't really know what this thing is. We don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
And so does this thing bury its dead? You
Right.
know? And I mean,
Right.
that would explain right there why we don't find Bigfoot bodies, because
Right.
what are you going to do? How are you going to find a Bigfoot gravesite? You know,
Right,
like,
right, right. Well, I mean, we find dinosaur bones, so
it's
it's
true.
like things turn up eventually,
But that's
So, but like
that's the other interesting aspect to it too.
it is.
The process of fossilization is so incredibly rare, and
Uh huh.
what we have, it does not do, bones don't do well in acidic soil. And you look at
Hmm.
where the vast majority of Bigfoot sightings are, is like places like the Pacific Northwest or Florida, places where it rains a lot. And all that
Yeah.
rain creates acidic soil that naturally
Hmm.
breaks down bones. So
Right.
if these things are burying their dead, their bones are going to dissolve even in the soil
Hmm.
where porcupines and things can't get to them. So,
Right.
I mean, you look at the fossil record for chimpanzees. We have like 2 fossils of a chimp.
Is
Yeah.
that true?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you look at Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus, we only have partial jaw bones, and that's the
Right.
largest ape that ever lived. But
Right.
again,
Great
you
point.
look at where
Great point.
you look at where they live. They live in tropical Africa. They live in Asia where it rains a
Right.
lot, and it's like that acidic soil, it's not conducive to producing fossils or preserving bone. It just isn't.
Right.
And so, as far as not finding bones or, you know, I do think it could be discovered one day. Somebody's either
Uh-huh.
gonna kill one or, run it over in their truck or something like that. But I also
Right.
feel like they're a
Right.
little too smart for that. I think
Uh-huh.
they've seen enough of people to know that's the boomstick, like that.
Yeah.
You don't want to be
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
other
yeah.
end of that. So,
Right, right, right. Well, now, here's a question I feel like I have to ask because I think it's kind of a fun question, and it is like a little conspiratorial, right? But let's say, just for the sake of argument, right, that Bigfoot is 100% real. It is a flesh and blood creature. Do you think that any government agencies are aware of this, such as like the Park Ranger Service? And you hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, they definitely know. The park rangers definitely know," but they don't tell people because they don't want people to go into the woods and be scared of like a Bigfoot type thing. Like, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I'm sure you and your boys, when you're around the campfire night, think like, are they aware of this thing? Like,
I think
what are your thoughts on that?
I think they would have to be. I think they would have to be. I don't necessarily think there's like a grand conspiracy behind it. I
Mhm.
mean, the whole thing, the U.S. government is very large, and
Yeah.
and I would say at times inefficient. And the
Mhm.
best way to prove that is to go to the DMV. Um,
Especially in LA, it's a
Yeah.
nightmare.
so
You have to take work off the whole day.
yeah, right. So, as far as like this grand overarching conspiracy about hiding Bigfoot, I don't necessarily think so. I think, you know, I think it's just a stigma thing. I think they have
Uh-huh.
to know,
Yeah.
maybe they've had an experience or two,
Right.
or they get reports from campers who have an experience, but
Right.
they keep it hush hush because of the stigma,
Mhm.
like you don't want to be that one national park ranger who goes, well, I've seen a Bigfoot. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're delusional, dude. Like,
Yeah, you're fired.
yeah, basically,
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
it's still very much so. I know we're living in a crazy time for
Yeah.
Bigfoot stories and small town monsters and all that stuff, but there are still so many people who are scared to come forward about their story because there is that stigma behind it,
Agreed. I agree.
So,
I think with UFOs, Bigfoot, paranormal, whatever, I think we get a very tiny piece of the pie,
mhm.
and then the vast majority of people, because people will say like, oh, there's only like 33 confirmed cases of Bigfoot in Nebraska. I'm saying like that we know of,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like that. I mean, like how many people are going? Like if I saw a Bigfoot, I don't think the first thing I would do would be to type out a report on BFRO.
Yeah, no, right.
You
Yeah.
know, that would be like the last thing on my list.
Yeah, right, right.
Like,
And a lot
yeah,
of people don't, So,
no, I wouldn't think so either. Yeah, because a lot of the reports I've gotten just locally in Nebraska and Iowa, they didn't go to a reporting center. They told me at a conference, and whether the stories are genuine or not, I'll never know. But like, there's a lot of stories in the Midwest,
Yeah.
and that's always curious to me. And I feel like people really like if you're not into this stuff, just think it happens in California, Washington, Canada, and like the those heavily wooded Cascade Olympic mountain type areas.
Right.
But that's just not true. I mean, like
Right.
Ohio and Pennsylvania, like, are kind of getting close to rivaling the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of sightings in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
And I believe it because, a big part of my series, Mysteries and Monsters, I was like, it was like, oh, find Bigfoot stories in Southern California. And I was like, I'm going to tell you right now, there aren't any.
Right.
Psych. Just kidding. There are
Yeah.
a lot. There are a lot. And,
Yeah.
Not so much in recent days, but, in recent years, but throughout history, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And when you look at, you have to look at what used to live here too, and
Mhm.
you can't just look at the modern day and age. It's like Southern California used to be a hotbed for grizzly bears,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, if there was enough life here to support grizzly bears back in the day, then the Bigfoot sightings definitely make sense,
Right.
But
Right.
like the grizzly bears are gone. We've built up every square inch of Southern California. It's like there is no place for Bigfoot to be except for up north. So,
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Well, and even like a lot of the local-ish Midwest researchers, they bring up a good point to me
Yeah.
where they'll be like, well, where do the majority of the Bigfoot cases happen in Nebraska? And I'm like, well, right along the Missouri River. They're like, well, that's where, the deer go, and there's fresh water,
Right.
and that's where the most game is. That's where like deer hunters go.
right,
They go right by the Missouri River to hunt deer because that's where the majority of deer are.
right.
And they follow that kind of path. And so that makes sense to me. I totally get that. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating. But like, it is funny where, like, I'm sure you are aware of now, it's like, man, this Bigfoot dude is everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, obviously it has its hot spots, but like, yeah, it's seen in Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Alabama,
Yeah.
you name it, man.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Like down in Kentucky, there's a lot of Bigfoot, like, geez,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
believe
all over
it.
the
I
place.
100% believe it.
Yeah.
And I think they're rare. They live in small numbers. It's like these aren't. I don't know. These aren't like other animals.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. So
Do you think potentially, like, because I'm sure you've heard these stories too, but there's stories about like how they've seen like Bigfoot almost look like a predator type cloaked thing, and then it like materializes in front of people's eyes. Not saying those stories are genuine,
Yeah.
but there are stories like that. Do you think potentially there is like a supernatural quality about Bigfoot, that it does possess abilities that one would not expect from an animal?
I don't know. I think what we're seeing with Bigfoot. I don't know if you've ever read Matt Pruitt's book, The Phenomenal Sasquatch.
I haven't. No.
You should read that.
Yeah. So I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, The Phenomenal Sasquatch, Matt Pruitt. And that's available on Amazon. But that was
Okay.
what we're looking at with Bigfoot, and this is something I thought about a lot while I was working on my Road to Discovery series, is, people, and this is why it takes such a long time to explain, because you have to understand a lot about a lot. And so, like, when you look at something like the Bigfoot nests found in Washington by the Olympic
Mhm.
Project,
Mhm.
it most closely resembles a gorilla nest. Okay?
Interesting.
Down to the
Okay.
formation of how they make their nests, where they make their nests, and where the biggest nest, is positioned in relation to the other nest. It's gorilla to a T. But then you have these reports of long howls, the Ohio howl type sounds.
Yeah.
But those don't happen very often. Well,
Mhm.
what does that most closely resemble? That most closely resembles the orangutan. Because an orangutan will actually do a long howl to announce its
Interesting.
presence to a group of females. And, something like tree knocks. What could a tree knock be? Do we see that in nature at all? Yeah, actually, chimpanzees will use tree knocks to locate each other in the jungle.
Interesting.
And so it's like, okay, it's an amalgamation of all these things. It's not one-to-one to a different animal, because it wouldn't be, because it's its own animal,
Mm-hmm.
So, but it also, presumably, it would be descended from the same chain as the other great apes, right?
Right.
Including us, hence
Uh-huh.
the bipedalism. None of the other great
Yeah.
apes are bipedal like us, So there's that aspect to it. And I think when you have that, all these different combined factors, plus other things, other adaptations it has to live in North America, might create this entire mix of different activity that we're not familiar with. We don't understand this animal, you know? We don't understand its habits. We don't know where it migrates to, if it migrates, you know? So all these factors come together and make this like really weird thing that we can't explain. And I think a lot of the times we will like jump to, oh, it disappeared into a portal. And it's like the best explanation I heard about that is like, okay, you see a Sasquatch out in the woods. Immediately you're in flight or fight mode. But you're also dumbfounded because you're seeing something that you did not think was real.
Yeah, it shouldn't be there.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And then it drops down to all fours and it starts spider crawling on the ground in the bushes. Your brain didn't process, you know, where did it go? It just disappeared.
Right.
You know? Did it disappear or did it hide itself from view? Yeah.
Right. By the way, the spider walking thing, I feel like if I saw a 9-foot tall, hairy humanoid spider walking, I would have a cardiac arrest and just die.
Yeah.
Out of shock. That I can't think of anything scarier in the entire world than the spider walk thing.
Dude, yeah, it's weird. And that's like one of those things.
Weird.
It's like you're always looking, you know, you have your thermal out there and you're always looking up here and it's like maybe it's down there. You know?
Right.
You know, it's weird. So
that would be too much. Like I could barely handle seeing one at a great distance, but like if I saw one spider walking, Eli, that would be game over for me. I would never be the same. Oh my god, dude, this has been so fun. Honestly, like it's such a treat to first off talk to a filmmaker who's so gifted like yourself.
Thank you.
But to someone who's actually like walking the walk, man. Like you're going out there and doing it. And I just like I really like my I don't want to clap because I don't want to, ruin the audio, but like my friend, good for you. Keep doing what you're doing. Like I think your work is really great. And in fact, I mean like for people who maybe are unfamiliar with your work, if you had to name a documentary that obviously people are going to watch the UFO cult, the Mountain of God. I'm going to put the link in there because since we highlight it so much. But if you would to like tell people like, all right, here's a good introduction to what I do. What documentary would you point them to?
I would watch the beginning of my series, Bigfoot: The Road to Discovery. Watch the first episode. It's called Return to the Nest Site. Yeah, and so
I've seen it. It is very good.
Yeah, if you go on the Small Town Monsters YouTube channel, there's playlists that separate each show. So just look for Bigfoot: The Road to Discovery, and that'll have all the episodes on there. So
I second that. It is very, very, very good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to plug before I let you
go? Stay tuned, everyone, because at some point this year, my latest film, The Siege of Ape Canyon, will be released.
Hell yeah.
So that's the Ape Canyon story that we all know and love, and just the very similarly cold case story that was dug into by Mark Marcel and what he found. So
man, I can't say I love. Obviously, it's cool to go look for things in real time, but I do think cold case research and trying to find more about these famous stories is very valuable.
Yes.
So I applaud y'all for doing that. But buddy, this has been so much fun. It's super great to meet you. I can't believe you're in Nebraska. Next time, if you're ever back in Nebraska, hit me up. I'll take you to some weirdo spots where Bigfoot has reportedly been seen a couple times. But my man, like just again, like I want to say, like great work. Keep on doing it. Like it's important. Like dudes like myself and people who listen to the show, like we really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, friends, this has been the wonderful Eli Watson. You will have links in the show notes to all the stuff we mentioned and more. I highly recommend going to check out all his work. And folks, thank you for listening to another episode and enjoy your dinners tonight. Peace.